Step 1. Look behind you. You're about to die.
Welcome to the edge of nowhere.
They're playing games at the edges of what we know.
Monster Lore Tour Podcast. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 75th episode of the Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Carr, here with my co-host and the 4 to my 1, Mr. Nice. Matt O0, a.k.a. the MOZ. How are we doing today, MOZ?
Well, I mean, it's the 3 to the 4 to the 1.
Oh, are you the 4 to my 3?
You're just, you're trying to outdo me on that. It works. It works, though.
Oh, because making me the 1 makes me, okay. So
you're back to unique consciousness.
I can do 4 to my 3.
You're back to love.
I'll make you the 4 to my 3. I'll put you on top.
I think you should be there.
Because you're running this numerology episode anyway.
No, actually, Alex Bone is today. So we have a guest who knows way more about numerology.
And we are also joined today by Alex Bone.
Yes, we are recording this at Bone Manor, and I think you guys should totally quit throwing around the number 3 at each other. This seems a little creepy to me.
Okay.
See, Bone's got a whole numerology.
We'll find out why that is an event. But we do appreciate you coming all the way from the kitchen to be here today.
Normally, this would be where I'm hanging out today.
Yeah, we wrecked everything. That's what we do.
I wish you guys would go in the kitchen and make me something to eat.
Yeah.
Once you guys start talking, maybe I can go do that, because I'm going to let you guys take most of this numerology conversation over. But it sounds like the 3 of us each have kind of like a different angle on this, different philosophies and approaches to the whole numerology question. So I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to let you guys kind of go, because you're deeper into this than I am. I have some stuff for later.
Well, I'm going to do my stuff. I want to get his feedback, and then we're going to get to his stuff. I was never into numerology, so this is just something where things kind of started to go for some reason. And I think I think it'll be very illuminating today, one way or another.
And before you start, I'd like to say that I have quite the opposite experience, having done extensive research into medieval European numerology and going as far back as, some of the cultures that started in Iraq and Asia. Well, some people know that Iraq is in Asia, but don't tell anybody. But I've been doing this for about 25 years, well, probably longer. My system is probably finished coalescing in about 2002. So that'll be 22 years of somewhat stable experimentation with mine. So I'm coming from a little bit more of a lengthy, protracted experience with numerology than you guys.
And the 2 times the 2 is the devil, as we're going to find out later with one of my things. So 22 is now. See, we're already starting to number each other now.
That would be absolutely backwards.
All right.
Why don't you start, and then I'll give you a hard time momentarily.
I'm sure you will. That's why you're here.
All I really know about numerology is that if a 6 turns out to be 9, I'm just fine.
Ooh.
That's all I know.
There you go. So you might want to hit up my review of Mike Clelland's work on owls and UFOs for that last final owl wrap-up episode. If you get lost tonight, because we're just going to be briefly going into that and kind of overviewing it, but there's new stuff to bring to this, so we're going to kind of flavor it with a little more numerology tonight. And, obviously Bone's going to have a different take, and we're probably going to argue a little bit, is what it sounds like already. But tonight's mood quote comes from Proclus. Hence the soul stands at the intersection of the eternal and the changing. And that's where we're heading tonight. Yeah, the damnable crossroads we keep coming to,
The only eternal is change.
That's right, Heraclitus kind of stuff. But basically, we always find the devils, we find the witches, we find the tricksters, we find Hecate, we find all these folks right at the crossroads. And I do want to bring one definition each time, because I know we jump around. I tend to just get scattered and not really define many definitions. Part of it is because we can't have a 3 or 4 hour podcast. Jeremy's made that very clear. He doesn't want to do that again.
Yeah, I mean, we don't go too long.
But I do want to do the transcendent function. And I think I said transcendental once. I kind of messed that up in one of the episodes. But Jung's transcendent function, he kind of plops this concept down right at Proclus's crossroads between consciousness and the unconscious material of the mind, where tricksters and demons and angels and monsters, from Hermes to Hecate, are all kind of hanging out, all skin walks of life are kind of hanging out down there.
The liminal space between the conscious and unconscious. And
yes, it's the valve kind of between the conscious and the unconscious material. And that's where this part of the numerology thing, Bone, just so you know, this is where that's kind of coming from, and some of the work of Carl Jung. And starting with Carl Jung, let's hear what he has to say about the transcendent function. The process of coming to terms with the unconscious is a true labor, a work which involves both action and suffering. It has been named the transcendent function because it represents a function based on a real and imaginary or rational and irrational data, thus bridging the yawning gulf between conscious and unconsciousness. It is a natural process, a manifestation of the energy that springs from the tension of opposites, and it consists of a series of fantasy occurrences which appear spontaneously in dreams and visions.
There's your dualism, then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's from 2 essays.
It all comes down to dualism.
2 essays on analytical psychology, Carl Jung. We're definitely going to be dualisming today as well. But we find monsters in these yawning gulfs now, and I think we should start a thing, where... Actually, I was thinking of this. Remember we did the thing where we used the new phrase wrongly? So I'm going to do one. This one's for you here, Bone. Conjunction, junction, what's your transcendent function? And I'm doing it in honor of your relative there.
My uncle did the artwork for that.
Yeah. So it wasn't his idea. He did the artwork for...
Are you serious?
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah, he did the Schoolhouse Rock. He didn't know what a conjunction was, actually. That's the irony. But he's like, I'll draw a picture of this kid on a train.
Wow.
How did I not know this?
Yeah, you learned that right now.
It's like I'm in the presence of royalty, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
I have some of his
that's why
artwork.
It's called Bone Manor.
Right.
I get it.
But Bill, on a Capitol Hill, for some of you, this was what, the 70s, maybe?
Yeah.
Schoolhouse Rock and all
Schoolhouse Rock, exactly. So,
the more you know.
But I want to explain why we're doing this episode now, because it seems like sometimes, you think a 6-part owl-related extravaganza is enough, but I failed miserably on this. But it is shifting to numerology. There is going to be a different slant. There's going to be a lot of new information today. But it does come back to some of those themes, so we're going to do a little bit of an overview. But numerology is looming larger than I ever thought it was. Not something I'm particularly interested in, so this is proof that maybe it's in the pudding, that this is where I had to go, not by choice. This is something Bone is interested in. It's something that when I'm left at your house and I read all your books, they tend to get to numerology at some point, which is where I stop reading often. But this is what we got to do. This is what happened. Last time, Mike Clelland's stuff led to Marie-Louise von France and Carl Jung. And it's basically because I felt like I solved, and you're familiar with Mike Clelland's work, Bone. I think we talked about this, owls and UFOs. And I feel like I solved it to some degree, or at least I have something maybe to add to it. And Jeremy's used to these calls in the middle of the night. I know who the Loch Ness Monster is, and I can prove it. And you're like, MOZ, did you take your medication? Or And we're only partly joking, though. We've had a number of conversations where I'm like, I know what this is. Well, I'm usually wrong.
The Loch Ness Monster was the Gloucester sea serpent from episode 2, whose name is Slinky.
That's right.
So, we do figure stuff out here.
Occasionally.
I put that together when I listened to it.
Yeah.
There you go.
But here's the thing. When we did this stuff, and you only know pieces of this because some of it happened at your house, but Owl has broken loose here a little bit. We had our own strange owl experiences. When we revamped our Owl Us files, which was the second to last episode, it became much longer. Then I was kind of compelled after thinking about this for a while, what was really going on with the owls. It compelled me, after finding Paul Bishop's book, reading Plato through Jung, Why Must the Third Become the Fourth? I had to get it. And, I had more time to think about, I guess, what all this might mean. And certainly I alluded somewhere, these recordings, those last owl episodes, that why do the owls themselves seem to be voicing their opinion on all of this? They seem to have provided an answer of sorts, and I want your opinion on this as well, Bone. And I know this isn't necessarily your brand of numerology, so I think we'll fight at some point. But some strangeness definitely has occurred in our lives. We'll be hearing from our these feathery friends later in the episode. But we have a proficient number theorist guy here tonight, and I'm hoping you will try to keep us honest. And you're a friend of the show, and really you're the last friend of the show, because Greg, Logan, and Cisco don't want to hang with us anymore because of this.
He's our only friend.
He's our only friend. One of us.
Well, how many times have you been on now, Bone? Like 6?
He's like SNL. He's like Steve Martin.
He's
SNL.
becoming an unofficial co-host, is what he's doing.
It depends on how many, how spread thin I am.
Yeah, right. No, I get you. But tonight we'll be discussing numbers and monsters, kind of much more. But we'll be returning to monsters proper. As you're going to be doing Black-Eyed Kids soon, I'm going to be doing more on Goatman and Baphomet. So we're going to get back into some monsters don't fear or fear. But I also came across some random synchronistic readings. Basically, everything we talked about numerologically wise in Clelland's work kind of resurfaced for me randomly during my regular readings, which is another reason we're doing this. I found variations of this numerological message in Pythagoras and even in the Tao as well. It's like when you suddenly notice a new make and model of a car, and then owls hijack your car at gunpoint. It was kind of like that.
Owls?
Yeah, they
guns.
They can. But it's not surprising, actually, as you recall, Jung built some of his own numerological insights off of the I Ching. And although the Tao Te Ching is based on the philosophical work of Lao Tzu, it is built off some of the same basic insights of the much older I Ching. But before we get there, I know this is new to you, Bone, some of it, but because you're listening to MLT in order, and I don't think you're kind of up to where we're at exactly. But this is going to be a little bit of crash course for you, but I got to do it quick because we've been here. But in the culmination of Owl Week, while reviewing the work of owl guy Mike Clelland and his messengers Owl, Synchronicity, and the UFO abductee, I tried to solve part of the riddle of these strange synchronistic events, namely the commonality of UFO and owl sightings, happenings around the same time, what they might mean, and why they seem to be linked, these two phenomena. For those who didn't catch that one, Clelland has like 1,000 pages of such related accounts. He has his own weirdness that kind of sent him on this quest, and then people just started showing him, sending him all these stories about owls and UFOs. And these accounts range from big owls to a UFO showing up, then an owl showing up, or an owl vision, and then an abduction scenario. But these variations of a theme keep surfacing for us as well during our Us Files, which started to match more of Clelland's work for whatever reason. But studying the subject, changed the equation for us a bit, and we're trying to solve why this numerological bent that we seem to be on, and we're going to try to wrap it up so we can get on back to monsters. But, this has been an exciting mission in its own way. We also found out not only does the abyss stare back at you, in this case it stares straight back at you. Why, Jeremy?
Because Black-Eyed Kids?
No, because the owl's the only hieroglyph that actually stares at you.
Oh, that's right. That looks straight out from the wall,
Hieroglyphs
not sideways.
are usually profile. The only one that is straight at you is the owl, so it's staring right at you. So
that's
Toff
right.
was
I forgot about that.
Into owls in his own way. But again, Mary-Louise von Franz, building off of some of Jung's theories at the end of his life, he kind of hands her this stuff about numerology. She kind of takes it and writes numbers in time. But we found Carl Jung's view of numbers had a qualitative side, a belief paralleling the East that you already kind of mentioned, Bone. Basically, there's built off these interdependencies of numbers, or numbers as a continuum, or a field phenomenon, or ensemble. So when you approach cutting the deck or picking a card, has the effect of collapsing the wave, kind of spying the particle. In short, numbers act as a bridge from the psyche to matter. And in von Franz's work, she talks about Jung's theme that through such synchronicities and symbols breaking, a dual mandala then arises through the unconscious, a paradox with numerical and potentially spiritual implications. And this is part of my conclusion as to why so many people see owls in conjunction with UFO sightings. At the end of my owl research, as part of that dueling mandala, I found the owl equals death, symbol of death, UFO equals ball of light or life symbol, and they are flip sides of that same mandala, namely life and death. Jung himself talked about the UFO archetype as a collective numinous ball bursting forth as a symbol of a new age. And these opposite symbols are trying to reunify and transcend within the psyche of the seeker, those on the edge of gnosis, and they represent the last chasm, or what the consciousness theorist Ken Wilber calls the transpersonal bands at the end of the mystical experience, just prior to enlightenment, after which life and death become one. It's the primary dualism. On the way into life and the last one on the way out, we have this life and death are one. Essentially, this band of weirdness is also perceived by meditators who may briefly confront asuras or demons or legions of Mara in the case of Buddha and the Bodhi tree. Just prior to enlightenment, it gets strange even for meditators, and it gets strange for Jungians who are breaking these symbolic codes that sometimes show up in strange mystical experiences.
So are we somehow using numbers as a doorway to the quantum?
Yeah.
Like it's our access to the waveform in a way, and it kind of shows us where we're collapsing on the waveform?
Yep, and that's the next part here. But basically, the darkest before the dawn, or the long night of the soul, is what we're talking about, that seeker piece. But we determined author Michael Clelland is taking a more symbolic journey, the Carl Jung path towards awakening, as opposed to the more traveled meditative Zazen one for the mindfulness route. But Clelland even has a Mandela-filled mystical experience we talked about while he was camping, when he actually sees a large floating mandala hovering before his eyes. He even reports having had breakthroughs in his own emotional life, studying these mystical and strangely symbolic experiences. But back to my thoughts, part of the answer to the owl and UFO question also came from numerology itself. It's not my thoughts, it's really Mary Louise von Franz's. And the four numbers that seem to cover it all simply is 1, 2, 3, 4. The work of von Franz has shown me how integers themselves have implications for almost a color-by-number schema of the internal territory of the mind and the soul or the Godhead. We call it taint by numbers. Well, we didn't, but I did now.
Yikes.
But we will be returning and further decoding the work of Maria Prophetessa, a Hebrew prophet, who sums up the matter thusly: out of the one comes the two, out of the two comes the three, and from the third comes the one as the fourth. But who was this Maria Prophetessa? Turns out she's a Hebrew mystic, and the prophet part isn't encoded in her name. It's just hidden in plain sight. They call her a prophet, so it's Prophetessa. But back, because we were all like, wow, prophet's writing her name. Yeah, that was for a reason. But back to why numerology resurfaced through my normal readings. Again, I found Pythagoras. Now, this isn't Mary Louise von Franz, but I didn't realize his Tetrakytes, Tetrakyts, comes so close to what Prophetessa is saying. So from Gary Lachman's work, the best occult scholar you never heard of, here's what Pythagoras' Tetrakytes part explained from his secret teachers of the Western world, and it's in the show notes. Pythagoras saw numbers very differently. For him, they were essentially qualitative. That is where we see 1, 2, 3, and so on as merely integers expressing the amount of something. For Pythagoras, numbers had a character much in the way that, say, people do. For him, 1, 2, 3, and so on expressed certain fundamental archetypal characteristics that gave pattern and shape to reality, ... The one is the fundamental source out of which everything emerges, is with 2 that all existence begins. 2, or the dyad, introduces multiplicity and strife, the tension between opposites, ... And 3, the third element, Lachman ties our concept of the day, the transcendent function, which harmonizes the other 2. He compares with Gurdjieff's laws of 3. Then Lachman explains Pythagoras' Tetrakytes, which, quote, becomes the polar opposite in 2, then their harmony and reunification in the higher synthesis of 3, resulting in the manifestation of the world in 4. Now, I read Number and Time, and I didn't realize just how closely Pythagoras was really saying the same thing as Prophetessa was. I didn't quite get that out of the first thing. And then I was reading the Tao, and just quite randomly, this is the Tao part I just picked up a couple weeks ago. The Tao gave birth to the 1 gave birth to the 2 gave birth to the 3, and 3 gave birth to the 10,000 things. The 10,000 things carry yin and embrace yang. They achieve harmony by combining these forces. In a close variation, the 4ing of the 3 to return as the 1, the Tao is implied but not spelled out in the last part, except we get as close as we can with the yin and embracing the yang to achieve harmony. It's combining these forces. But speaking of numerological encodings, guess which verse from the Tao Te Ching that is? Can you guess which one?
1234.
42.
Oh, 42. Nice. Douglas
Yeah,
Adams
we
is always
Douglas
right.
Adams a lot. He comes up a lot in this. But here's a review and a new look at the fouring of the 3 and why it involves monsters. Here's my overview of the 4 numbers. At the end of the breakdown of each number, I added Jungian analyst Paul Bishop's insight because I read his book since doing this last bit. So the number 1, my take, and this is the part you may disagree with, or some of it you're going to agree with. Number 1 equals unity consciousness, pre-existence, the undifferentiated Godhead, all is one, what we here in the Southwest call the whole enchilada. Number 2 is Bishop found a great quote from Macrobius explaining how the number 1 quote contains within itself innumerable patterns of created things. Plato's forms, maybe, or maybe what Rupert Sheldrake might call morphic resonance. But Bishop really explains why the number 1 is an odd duck. Many philosophers and mathematicians actually question whether 1 is even a number. Don't believe me? Go to an elevator. Where's the floor 1? It's usually an L. No. Huh?
Yeah.
No, that's not real. But
Well, it is odd because, like, 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 to any power is 1.
that's very
you can't
good.
change 1. 1 is just 1. It can't, like the other numbers, you add, you bring in other things like that. You put it to powers and multiply it by itself, and they become other things. 1 is just 1.
That is the example the mathematicians go with, like exactly what you said.
Okay.
But even Aristotle, the great-grandfather of all scullymuggles, didn't think 1 was a real number. It just means unity, even to mathematicians. And, of course, mathematicians were cooler then because they had some cult stuff going on. But no matter how you slice it, you can't slice it. So 1 simply as unity consciousness is really kind of a good fit. Number 2, this is my take, and Mary-Louise von Francis to some degree. For the individual, it's that moment we all get Heideggered or thrust into this reality in space-time. From a more origin of consciousness perspective, 2 represents the primary dualism, which occurs after Skyfather is somehow rent from Earth Mother, creating a space and allowing for Layla, this play of forms to commence, this thing called life, as Prince calls it. But the hero standing between the newly rent Earth and Sky now suddenly has an evil brother, or a sister shows up, or a wife, or an adversary. Thus, these things get interesting. This is where the 10,000 things show up in the Tao, and all this, basically life commences. Here's number 2, Bishop's take, what I learned from him. With the number 2, the idea of alterity or otherness appears. That was also in von Franz as well. But it's almost universally considered a bad number, even back to alchemical times, as Gerhard Dorn, channeling Plato, describes it per Bishop's work, something opposite and alien. Here's Bishop explaining Dorn's view, obviously before he played War for Next Generation. It's quaternity, offspring, and hence number 2 is associated with Eve, number 3, Adam, and number 2 times 2 equals 4 with the devil. So by that logic, Adam's first wife Lilith, 2, and his second wife Eve, 2, times 2 is the devil.
Can you say that again?
2 is a quaternary offspring. Hence number 2 is associated with Eve. Number 3 is associated with Adam. Number 2 times 2 is then associated with the devil. So that's what Dorn is saying. Actually, Dorn via Plato. But so by that logic, Adam's first wife Lilith, 2, and his second wife Eve, 2, equals the devil. Now, we don't have second wives, but this is where Bone could probably help us out with this. Does first wife times second wife equal?
I don't have a second wife anymore.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Good for you. For you.
And numerologically, I might be jumping the horse with the
Do it.
carriage
Jump the
here.
horse.
Numerologically, 3 is the number of love, so a third wife is perfect. I rest my case.
That's why the 3rd time's a charm, right?
There you go. Very good.
It's a love charm.
But Jung kind of goes for the 4 as a devil piece of that as well, and 4 leads to wholeness, as we'll find out. Now we get to number 3. This is my take. And again, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all we're doing. And then we'll expand upon that in a bit.
That's because MOZ only has 4 fingers.
Yeah. I was a Freemason. It was during a terrible ritual. They took a little more off the top than they should have.
Oh, I thought it was because you were transdimensional.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe. Last night I felt pretty transdimensional, but that's thanks to you. We'll talk about that. Maybe not at all. Yeah, there you go. But number 3, again, we're going to take it from 1, 2, 3, 4. The hero's journey is the 3 for me, the outward arc toward individuation or self-actualization. It's initially a time of men to slay dragons or women to run with wolves, or what the Pythons called silly knees bent running around advancing behavior. But for those successful, the third stage ends in the mastery of oneself, the balance of anima and animus, and a coordination of mind and body, or in a being Ken Wilber calls the centaur, kind of mind and body one stuff. But at the end of the number 3's reign, budding mystical experiences and mandalas, angels and demons and monsters and myths start surfacing from the collective unconscious, past the transcendent function. I almost did it again. But insert your owls and UFOs here, and pointing us toward the paradoxical passage, the last great hurdle that awaits. Here's the stuff that Bishop adds to the number 3, from Paul Bishop's work. Number 3 as space between, or as process, or as the intersubjective state, or as the highest capacity of the mind, where healing can bring about something beyond essence and existence or wholeness. But for many scholars, it seems the Holy Trinity is where things end. I think that's where Bone is coming from. Jung equates it to levels of consciousness, with the Father being an earlier level of consciousness, think Old Testament, the Son, Jesus, being a newer, shinier level of consciousness, the New Testament, and the merger being the highest still, resulting in the Holy Ghost. The Holy Trinity is kind of a merger of the 3.
But those 3 things are all one thing, right?
Correct.
Which that one thing is a fourth thing because it's not any of those things individually. It's its own thing, right? So the 3 become the 4, which is a 1. Yeah,
in a sense.
Okay.
In a sense. The quaternary part of it is what we're going to get to. This is the next. You jump from 3 to 4.
I'm just making sure I'm keeping my brain wrapped around this as we go.
But many scholars, and I think maybe Bone as well, as a scholar in his own right, it ends at 3. And those are, because, again, it's the Holy Trinity. Aristotle felt this way, Hegel, Kepler, we talked about Gurdjieff's Law of 3. Even we found, several other folks talking about it ending at 3. But here's my take on the 4ing of the 3, what you're just mentioning here.
Okay.
It's a return to the individual soul to the one. So after the integration and transcendence of all this action, dragon slaying stuff, these relationships, it's this triumphant return to the number 1 as unity consciousness. So return to the prodigal son in a way, but in this version he or she actually learned something while they were gone. It's the passing through the paradoxical passage, past the portal guardians, passing through the paradoxical passage. Life and death merge into one. The primary dualism is healed. Owls and UFOs, angels and demons, enemies and frenemies were all blended and transcended. And here's the 4ing of the 3rd, Bishop's take, what he adds after reading his book. But this is the main premise of his whole book, actually. But Plato felt that the 4th element was the hard part and, quote, adversarial, sich alles Eidersaka, auszeichnet, and resistant to harmony. And that was Jung Platoing through Bishop. But why didn't Socrates go outside much as a boy?
He didn't have any socks.
He doesn't Plato well with others.
Oh.
I do all my own jokes, which doesn't really help the podcast much. But Bishop...
Aren't you glad you came today, Bone? This is why we have to come to your house.
That's right.
Those sandwiches better be good.
But Bishop even complains at one point that Jung didn't have much to say about this numerical capstone. The actual 4ing of the 3, which causes Bishop to call Mary Prophetessa's opus her so-called axiom, which again is the 1. Out of the 1 comes the 2. Out of the 2 comes the 3. From the 3 comes the 1 as the 4th. And I think Bone would agree that the last part doesn't make sense.
Probably.
But there is a... But hang on.
He agrees.
But there is a reason this last step... Well, Jung doesn't agree eventually. This is the reason this last step, the 4ing of the 3rd as the 1, is so hard to traverse spiritually or even contemplate philosophically. Again, most people think 3 is the end, as Jung himself did for a long time, matching the transcendent function towards the valve and towards the 3 for much of his career. But here's Bishop quoting a conversation Jung described this as being, and again, this is him selling the three. Quote, this is in a conversation that was recorded with him with somebody else. He said, crucified between the opposites and delivered up to the torture until the reconciling third takes shape. So back then he thought three was the end. But the whole idea of the importance of the fourth grew on Jung gradually. Bishop captures this transition, quote, over time, however, this emphasis on the third as a transcendent function gave way in Jung's thinking to an increasing insistence on the importance of the fourth as something that makes itself known in the human psyche, yet lies outside us. And again, Jung directly links 4 to the devil, which, quote, reveals the resistance of the fourth ingredient, den Widerstand des vierten Ingredients. So we meet it here as the adversary of the Christian Trinity, and he states more radically and clearly that previously that without the fourth, the three would have no reality as we understand it.
So I'm kind of getting the feeling that 1, 2, and 3 are in the realm of like science and scholarship and stuff, but the 4 kind of belongs to the philosophers. It sounds like it's very much more a philosophical thing at that point. Like we don't have a science for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely the return to the fourth has to be done. It is to me, it's the final dualism.
Yeah,
it's
a transcendence.
It's a and it's something outside
beyond the knowledge here to a whole new knowledge kind of thing. Right?
But he's pointing it to the main adversary. The dueling thing at the end for the mandala is life and death are one. The final adversary is the devil. The final adversary is surrendering to God, was what
right.
the Stryber said, and which the owls did, according to Clelland. But basically, Mary Prophetessa, she's also on that fantastic. Eventually Jung joins her in that group, and so do the Hermetists. The Hermetic idea is the same idea. They look at the fourth as a life force or the glue of the world, back to betwixt and between again, the medium between mind and body and the union of both. So you got the Hermetic folks, you got Mary Prophetessa, you got Jung, you got some folks starting to talk about the 4 being the return to the 1. The 4ing of the 3 has also been compared to returning into itself. So that's back more to that inward journey. When it comes to the main theme here, why the 3 must become the 4th, Bishop looks to Goethe's Faust and Plato's Timaeus for insights. He points to some introductions in Plato's work wherein 3 guests arrive, but the 4th is sick. He says, quote, some sickness has befallen him. Again, Bishop quoting now, how Jung translated this version of the 4ing of the 3 as coming with, quote, mournful significance, as Plato ran into, quote, something unexpected, an alien to his thought, something heavy, inert, and limited, a problem that the philosophical category of or the doctrine of privatio boni cannot solve. This leads Jung to conclude this last process, is outside of consciousness, outside of even life itself. But Jung
outside of our plane of existence.
Right. And Jung also looks to Goethe's Faust for clues again and finds the same theme. It's covered by Bishop, and he's channeling Schelling for this one. But in Faust Part 2, Act 2, these Nereid sireny things show up, and they're called a Kabiri. And there's one Kabiri named Axioros, who's in a Phoenician dialect of the day, means per Bishop hunger or poverty, thereby yearning or seeking. But here's Bishop quoting Jung, who describes these Kabiri, the mysterious creative powers that gnomes who work under the earth below the threshold of consciousness. So again, back to the below the level of consciousness. And here's what the same, Plato 4ing the 3rd shows up in Faust through these same sea nymphs. 3 we took off beside us. The 4th of them denied us. He told us he had the call and thought for one and all. So the all-important 4th is missing or sick in Plato, and yet the 4th thinks of them all in Goethe. Initially, Jung's mojo for all this came from alchemy, which was also a great movie, by the way. It came from alchemy. Remember that? I think it's on Tubi right now. But this is alchemical process. 1, 2, 3, 4 is basically the mixing of 2 separate pairs of opposites. Remember, I link them to 2 dualisms. I think the first one is mind-body, that Wilbur Centaur, and finally the life-death being one as the final dualism. This kind of matches some of the Eastern philosophies for enlightenment. But the example I give here, and this is to kind of just bring it home, this will end my essay part so we can kind of get on to the discussion, but is the example of Odysseus. You could follow his life 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to use Odysseus as this. The story starts as brave Ulysses is Heideggered to the world, landing in Ithaca with a thump. Dad passes out cigars and stuff, or whatever they did back then. This marks the transition from number 1, unity consciousness, to number 2, the shit show called life. But see how the phrase, look out for number 1, but don't step in number 2, is even more poignant at this point. But the number 2 represents his childhood up until he finds himself sent off to fight in the Trojan War. But Odysseus' number 3 is clearly extended a bit. His outward arc or hero's journey is a doozy. Everything from his action in the Iliad through the Trojan War campaign, through all those monster battles, especially Scylla and Charybdis, two prominent portal guardians. But even the Sirene women animus stuff, even a trip to Hades and back, and even through his ejection of the suitors, this is all number 3. It's all the hero's journey. I thought the return home was the return home initially, but it's not. Even the return home is part of the hero's journey piece of it, part of the mind and body and mastery of life, the 3. But to transcend environment, the 4ing of the 3, is Odysseus' inward arc, which occurs right at the very end. For Odysseus' last journey, he takes on the advice of the prophet he runs into in the underworld, Tiresias, who says to take a ship oar and trek inland with it. Inland equals inward. And he tromps off to his final mission to surrender to God, that which, again, back to Whitley Strieber and Clelland, remind us owls and aliens believe. But on this trip, Odysseus learns the final mystery. He buries the widowing oar as an altar, Axis Mundi stuff. He sacrifices 3 animals to Neptune, a ram, a bull, and a boar, which Richard Rohr points to as being examples of, quote, the untrained or immature masculine energy. But the key is he has to sacrifice them to Poseidon, Neptune again, the same dude who's been messing with him throughout the entire Odyssey. It's the final surrender. So then, per Rohr, he is, quote, connected to the larger kingdom of God and can slip in his mortal coil where, quote, Odysseus has lived the journey of both halves of his life and is ready to freely and finally let go. Again, life and death stuff. Those quotes from Richard Rohr's Falling Upward, which will be in the show notes. But Odysseus learns the lesson of the final dualism, completing his outward arc, the hero's journey, and then his inward arc, his acceptance of death and surrendering to God. The trip through the transpersonal bands, which is what Ken Wilber calls it, to all is one unity consciousness. His own 4ing of the 3. He finds peace with his tormentor, and he keeps the understanding that life and death in the end are one.
The dualism part here, so it's like when you come to this existence, you experience the primary dualism. You bifurcate yourself.
Right, you get it.
And then when you die, you go back to your whole self again. Right. There's a lot of real religious implications in that.
Yeah.
It's, the whole, our true eternal self is on the next plane up, and we're just an extension of that while we're here, kind of thing.
Yeah, you're definitely getting it.
I'm not liking it.
Bone looks like he's losing his mind.
I am losing my mind. I don't even know where to start. But before we move on from Odysseus, I want to bring up one point. The idea that of this duality of him giving himself to God seems totally erroneous to me, because Poseidon is A, one of many gods, and B, not the main god. So that does not mean a dualistic experience to me. That's like throwing a bag of marbles on the floor, picking one at random and saying this is the marble. There's a whole bunch of it. He's picked one, so this goes against any dualistic idea and concept to me, because if he had picked Zeus, there might be a teeny table leg to stand on, but he didn't. So all that does is open up this ocean of numbers and different possibilities, of which he has only picked one.
Well, this is a representation of everything, and it does squeak through the perennial philosophy, the great chain of being. And yes, this has to do with enlightenment. This has to do with Eastern philosophy. This has to do with the perennial philosophy that comes through Hermeticism as well. So it is a bigger picture piece. The connection I made for the Clelland episode was back to what you were saying, Jeremy, was that the two main. Well, actually, Wilbur has three because he says we bifurcate ourselves again, even with the shadow and self that splits, and that's where most of our therapies start with. But the second dualism, to kind of go back to unity consciousness, we're most differentiated after we separate ourselves even from our own shadow and our ego are separated. That's what most therapies kind of start to heal. But then as we move back towards growth, some of us can actually get our mind and body as one. That's a more of an Eastern philosophy, and Wilbur calls that the centaur. The third one, the final one, is that primary dualism of life and death, and this does match more Zen Buddhism and some of these other pieces, and it does match the Great Chain of Being and the perennial philosophy. It's not about a pantheon; it's about a panpsychism. Basically, it's not. Hinduism is a prime example. There's 1,000 gods. It's really not saying there's 1,000 gods. It's different representations of different things.
It's a giving up of the ego, to me. The in the collapsing of the waveform kind of thing kind of ties together in my mind right now, where he makes the sacrifice, and I totally see your point, Bone, but just argument's sake, he gives up his ego to this God in that way of sacrificing his prize animals or whatever, you know what I mean? And he is now on his individual basis collapsing his waveform at that point by killing his ego and like giving himself over to that.
Right.
That would be fine if you were talking Christianity, where there's only one door. I see it as the Greek pantheon. There's 27 doors I could pick. He picks one slightly at random. So it's like, well, I could pick this door, this door, this door, this door.
That was his enemy. That ended up being Poseidon was his enemy, and he had to make peace with his enemy. And that enemy could be in 1,000 different guises, 1,000 different gods. He had to be. He had to look at the adversary and say, "Okay, I'm forgiving you."
Right.
And I'm at peace.
It's not about there being one individual God. It's about the individual themselves killing their ego, because he's been at war with this God, and he finally is like, you know what? Never mind, I'm not fighting anymore. I don't care. Here's what you need to let me go live my life. I'm just going to go live my life. I don't want beef no more. You know what I mean? And he is collapsing his personal, and it does like break the whole monotheistic thing that like every individual finds their own higher being or whatever it may be to surrender themselves to, in order for them just on an they are the individual, they are the one that is collapsing their waveform in order to move up to a higher stage of enlightenment or whatever it may be.
Right.
That's the way I would take that.
And hang on one second. So I'm going to do Bishop's conclusion. Then we're going to talk owls with some of the things going on, and then that's the last point I'm going to make and hand it back to you then after that. So Bishop's conclusions, again, he's primarily looking at Plato's influence on Jung with regards to this numbers game, but he concludes the third must become the fourth because he doesn't have the rent money yet. No, he believes the third must achieve quantity to, quote, thereby a geometrical approximation to the circle, which is in turn the symbol of wholeness and perfection. So the three becomes the four to get back to the wholeness. There's a geometric kind of Kepler-y kind of component to it as well. He points to Jung's usage of paradoxes as a tool because, quote, non-ambiguity and non-contradiction are one-sided and thus unsuited to express the incomprehensible, whereas only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. This fullness is reflected in the fact that empirical reality has a transcendental background. It's back to that psychoid level. Everything's connected at the back of the kind of the deepest level of the psyche. It's that Dr. James did that canvas. The whole painting is the canvas. That's the psychoid level. Everything emerges through it. These dualisms are just emerging through this canvas, and we're actually healing them to get back to the transcendental background.
Have you seen Wes Anderson's Asteroid City?
I have not.
I feel like that plays into this a lot. Should watch that. Well, the movie is a play, like it's real to the people in the play, but it's a play, and every once in a while you go backstage and see like the real reality of the thing behind what seems to be the reality and stuff.
Yeah.
That just totally made that pop into my head. If you haven't seen it, Asteroid City by Wes Anderson.
Well, there you go. And let's wrap up Bishop. He makes a little reference to shamanism. We're not going to get into that too much today. But I want to give mad kudos to Paul Bishop. Enjoyed the book. Thought it was a...
Mad kudos, Mr. Bishop.
Down boy!
But shifting towards my take, just a little bit here before we get to Bones' take. Bishop saw Jung as a student of Plato, and particularly Jung wanted out of Plato's cave in a bad way. I envision Jung, torch in hand, reading the symbols of the cave wall, making his way one insight, one dream, one connection at a time, as he methodically moves towards the cave mouth. But what's missing on the Bishop front is not a ton on the process of the fouring of the three, as it relates to the return of the one. So he's more on Bones' camp, I think, at the end of the day. This is why we're here to argue. But he was not taken with the prophetessa equation quite the way I was, or quite, and Bone wasn't either, which is why he again called her equation the so-called axiom. He says that in the book. He's focusing more on the classic, interpretation of Jung's individuation, moving towards perfection in man's here on earth, wholeness on this plane, individuation, like Nietzsche's Superman a little bit, or Deepak Chopra's Metahuman, or MLT's Paranerdalists. We got to add that there.
Oh, yeah. This is a very paranerdalist episode right here.
Exactly. I tell you what. But what's missing, and again, probably not in Plato, this is not the scope of his work, but what's missing is the surrender, the return, the peace, the scene, the Bodhisattva piece, the winnowing oar of Odysseus.
Yeah.
Von Franz's work, basically, I got a clearer picture of the fouring of the three from her. Actually, from Bishop's work, I got a better understanding of why it needs to return to the one. The fouring of the three piece, I really got a better understanding from Bishop's work. I did not really get Von Franz's. I really understood the return to the one. She even had like Navajo paintings of the fourth shaman kind of turning into the one and kind of bending around to become the one.
Yeah,
she had a lot more examples.
I've seen some connections to a lot of the Dene.
Yeah,
the Southwest tribe lore of like right now we're in the fourth world.
There you go,
kind of thing, and like the progression between the worlds.
That's Hopi.
Oh, is that Hopi?
Yeah, I think
that's Hopi.
Yeah,
I'm getting my lores mixed up. The Hopi lore. There
don't take off people.
Yeah, exactly. Won't make friends that way. But Toltec wisdom for a moment is a similar predicament. One that Jung wanders into Plato's cave by torchlight. If you can envision that. I just read Don Miguel Ruiz's, that Four Agreements guy. I read his Beyond Fear again. And he claims to have spent a year in a dream world cave, trapped by like a higher being who says, figure out this hieroglyph, this cave wall symbol, or you don't get to leave. And once he realizes he can't figure it out, at one point, for how many weeks or months that it seemed to him, he started to freak out a little bit. I may never get out of this cave kind of thing. But as soon as he surrendered to the experience, he relaxed. He was able to figure out the symbol. He was able to leave the cave. He was able to go on and make a great franchise with all those Four Agreement books. But
I didn't think we were going to make it out of that cave in the D&D campaign last night. I tell you what.
Exactly. Similar thing. Mm-hmm. Similar thing.
Bone almost killed us all.
If you guys had gone in that wrong door.
I'm the one who didn't want to go.
MOZ saved us without even knowing it. See,
right. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? The least likely to do something relevant.
The one from the four there.
That's right. But Jung conducted his research on the metaphysical badlands between alchemy and psychology, pushing those boundaries. But more importantly, he tried to marry the two through the use of numerology and physics. They all seem to be numerological variations of a theme, which ties in from Pythagoras to Jung, to Plato, to Kepler, to Lao Tzu, to Gurdjieff, to Crowley, maybe even Alex Bone, which was my guess, because that's what I wrote, and here we go now, yes. But back to Clelland's work for a minute. On the other thing that became clearer to me, why do the owls themselves seem to support Maria Prophetessa, goes against Bone, it goes against Bishop, and Plato and Jung, and their insistence that the third must become the fourth. So here's a review of my four. Go ahead, Jeremy. You got something to say.
Bone's losing his mind right now.
The owls are against me.
I know the owls are against you.
He's like squirming in his chair.
Exactly.
Like, I want to tear Moz's face off right now.
Exactly. No, I knew we kind of knew that when we brought him here. This is not his brand of numerology. These are things that we're going to discuss. That was a kind of a different slant. But here's the 4 things as to why the owls agree with me for whatever reason. And I didn't, these are not things I thought we'd be discussing 6 months ago, certainly.
Yeah, I don't know how we got here, honestly.
I don't know how we got here, but so here's the...
Wait a minute. I just want to point out that the California condors 100% are on my side.
Yeah. We're going to give them the condors. We're going to give them the condor. We've talked about that. The condors are on his side. Owls, totally my side. No, the stories of the 4ing of the 3, and this is, again, why I wanted to do this a bit, is it really started to realize what was happening and how to make sense of some of these things. I'm going to try to just really briefly, bring Bone up to speed and just remind folks why the 4ing of the 3 with the owls was kind of a meaningful thing to me personally, and to Jeremy to some degree as well. Other people kind of witnessed some of this stuff.
I can't deny how weird all the owl action was for a while.
We had some owl action. And the one, really quickly, we had this owl circus of sorts. So this one occurred with my friend from Vegas shows up. My 2 family members, myself, and my friend from Vegas are sitting on the back patio. All these 3 owls show up. They're literally sitting on the wall. They're flying back and forth. It seemed like an aerial show for about 20 or 30 minutes. There was a 4th seemed to be flitting around. We caught glimpses of a 4th in the distance. So that was, again, that culminated actually in a very alignment-y kind of thing that happens in Clelland, where, one of my family members steps out and says, look at the moon. We all step out into the grass. We look up in the pine tree. She saw the owl ringed in the moon, this crescent-y moon thing, you could see the whole moon, and the owl ringed in the moon. The rest of us saw it. I saw it right to the right. But basically, it was this profound kind of alignment experience. And then when everybody went inside, except for me and my wife, they all kind of flew in different directions, almost kind of creating an inverted pyramid kind of thing, and then they were gone. It was a very strange experience. A 4th was kind of skirting the perimeter, so it was like, again, the 4ing of the 3. So I started to talk about that a little bit when we did the Clelland thing. But then, fast forward maybe 6 weeks, or maybe 2 months. I'll have to actually find that data. But basically not much further along. I show up here at Bone Manor because they're going away, and I'm taking care of the puppy. And basically, your son hears an owl that first night. I hear an owl the first night. Everybody then leaves, gets in the car and drives away. And then there's 2 owls directly in the wash behind. There's one a little further south down the wash, a 3rd. And so 3 really basically almost in your yard. And then the 4th was to the north in the distance. I hear this 4ing of the 3 again comes up. And then you show up, and we edit it right before actually Bone returns to do an episode, and you hear an owl that next morning. And then the final editing, we do our final edit for the final episode. And I walk out to just go for a walk. He said, it's a wrap. We're done. We're done with Owl Week. We're never going to discuss it again. Little did we know. And as I...
Silly me.
Silly us. As I step outside, there's 3 owls around me, a cacophony of owls, and there's one in the distance, a 4th. And I record that. Actually, when I got back from my walk, it's odd for me to do this, but I don't touch my phone usually.
Yeah.
But I turn my phone on. I actually time-stamped. We can know when we actually recorded the final edit that same night. An hour later, when I got back from my walk, they were all still talking, so I was able to record it. But again, there was this 4ing of the 3, 4ing of the 3, 4ing of the 3, which compelled me to kind of buy this next book from Paul Bishop to say, maybe we're not done here. The owls still want to talk about this a little more. I don't. The stinking owls do. And then last night, let's talk about briefly what happened even last night.
Yeah. For context, Happy New Year, everybody. This is coming out later on. We record ahead of time, but last night was New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. But at just before 2 a.m., we had another owl visitation at Bone Manor. But
I was all worried that Jeremy was out in the hammock again, as usual. But I was worried you were going to miss it because I heard something and step out front. What I don't realize is that you're out back recording it.
Yeah, I actually got audio of it
at 2 a.m.
There was, and the way it started, because I was outside, I heard, I could hear everything. There was a siren in the distance that, kind of worked its way closer. And as the siren was getting closer, the coyotes off to the west were started like mimicking the siren a little bit.
That always happens, yes.
And as they started doing that from the front of the house, so like north, I guess, an owl starts it seems like it was talking to the coyotes, because the coyote stop, and then hoo, great horned kind of call, and then and coyotes. It sounded so much like a conversation. I have some audio. I'll splice some audio in here. (1:58 a.m.) But this went on for 5-ish minutes, and then
I would say
it was quiet out there for the rest of the night. As far as I know, I was still awake for a while, so it was literally right before 2 a.m. it started. A few minutes after 2 a.m. it stopped. So it was right around 2 a.m. Right after the New Year, first day of the year.
I step out of the house because I hear the owl. It's right outside of the window where I'm sleeping. He's outside with the hammock. I'm not aware he's outside recording. I look straight up. That owl was right in the tree in front of the house. So I saw the bottom. I couldn't tell it was a great horn just because I'm looking directly under it. I see the belly, but it's right up above me.
Yeah.
And exactly what you said. There's a pause after the owl talked. There was a pause where there were. Or vice versa, the coyotes would talk, the owl would be a pause, and owl would talk. But it was very
we got
bizarre.
the same impression. A few back and forth, and it was these guys are talking to each other.
And I said, really I hope you got that last night. He actually pulls out a phone and he recorded it.
I didn't even say a word. First time I saw you today, I just pulled up my phone and I hit play, and I was like, here you go. And you were like, oh, yeah, I was outside for that. It's like, oh, I recorded it because I thought you were sleeping.
And there's a million other things that have happened. That is just the overview, but this is the ones that related to just the fouring of the three to become the one. These events all happen within about a couple month period, and we
kind of all around us making all the episodes.
Yeah, there's a gazillion other stories. We haven't even said all owls because just owls have been abound. And now here's the other piece of it. I heard owls 2 days ago at my house. They stopped for 5 weeks. I was telling you, no owls in my neighborhood. I get this book from Bishop. I start reading about owls again. The owls return.
Well, you're missing a piece there, though. In a recent episode, you talked about with the djinn. You stopped working on the owls. You started working on the djinn, and you specifically said the owls stopped.
Yeah, for 5 weeks. It only 3 days ago it started at my house, and then last night here.
And it's after you bought a new book on owls.
Correct. Well, the numerology piece of it. I think the fouring of the three is why the condors are on his side, but the owls are on my side on this. That's just my opinion on it. But I don't know what to make of it. It's not something I usually, it wasn't the only actually odd thing that happened last night. We want to tell that story real briefly? So...
Well, I don't know why you guys are worried about owls so much, because supposedly there was a werewolf in our front yard.
I know people are going to be looking at it like, what are these guys? Come on.
It was a skin walker.
My brother shows up, says, was there a werewolf in your front yard? And I'm like, I don't know. It walks around to the wash and then starts yelling at us in wolf form. And it was New Year's Eve, folks. There's a small chance there was alcohol involved. So I just start yelling at it, and I told her, shut up! No, you shut up! And we had a big thing. I should have gone out and given that werewolf a piece of my... But I just... But he shut up. I got him to shut up. He moved on. Ate someone else. It's all good.
Now, I feel bad because I did not initially know what was going on. I did hear you talking over the wall. I was not aware of what was actually happening. I did go look later. Several minutes later, I wandered around with my lights to go through the wash and in the front of the house. Didn't see anything. But the interesting part of this story, not only the funny part, which was you having an argument with a werewolf, is your brother pulls up and actually walks to our campfire and says, I just saw a monster in front of your house.
His exact words, I just saw a monster in front of your house.
Yeah. And then he says, he goes, I guess it could be a coyote. He said it just...
He's like, it was, wolfish, and he said it like...
It slinked.
They pulled it in, and the headlights hit it, and it just kind of glared at him for a second, and like slowly walked away. And he's like, it was like something straight out of a horror movie. It like stopped and just looked back over its shoulder at us, just to let us know it wasn't afraid, kind of thing, and then just slowly walked off. He's like, it was literally something out of a horror movie.
Yeah, the way he said it moved, he didn't. He said, and he goes, I get. He was kind of laughing. Like, I guess it was a coyote. It was a very interesting. This happened, 10 hours ago.
Yeah,
like it was.
And then after that, it started yelling at us.
And then it's yelling at you.
In wolf form. And I'm like, we're trying to enjoy ourselves. Get out of here.
I missed the whole thing. And it didn't sound like a coyote, though.
It sounded weird. They're like barky-ish, but not necessarily. Like almost more like a dog. We're like,
Yeah, that's a skin.
Walker.
In my book.
And I'll kick its butt if it messes with my yard.
Well, I got to give you some credit, too. I was saying to Bone this. After we have this sighting and after all this weirdness, you just climb into your hammock and go to sleep and record owls. Good for you. I was inside. MOZ stayed safely inside, usual.
I actually did play, after I got that audio of the coyotes talking to the owl, I took up my phone and started playing some great owl calls on YouTube just to see if I could call in an owl, but I never even heard it again, never saw it.
Yeah.
I want to remind everyone that if there is a werewolf problem, I have enough swords for everyone.
That's super true. Are they silvered, though? They need to be silvered for the werewolf, right?
We can duct tape some quarters on it.
I guess some old silver $50 we can use.
I'm going to do one more little section, then we're leaving it to you, and we want to hear a little bit about what you think of numerology. But the complexity in large numbers, Marie-Louise von Franz alludes in Numbers and Time that things do go beyond the 1, 2, 3, and the 4, become even more powerful and more complex, as this pattern seems to repeat itself when we return to the 4 the second time, when we the eighthing of the 7. And this must be... Levels. And this, and that exactly kind of almost go the crime boss piece that you were talking about. Like it ties directly into what you were saying. Your thought with that is, but Bishop covers Jung's interpretation of this one man's dream, in which he's checking in a hotel and he's quote going up in a lift or elevator, the 3rd or 4th floor, then to the 7th and the 8th floor. A detail which Jung interprets as an expression of the tendency to reestablish a state of wholeness, and as an engagement with the problem of the 4th function. In Jungian terms, the whole mess involves the use of all 4 functions, thinking, feeling, sensation, intuition, but this dream, Jung suggests, expresses a certain hesitation before the last step to wholeness. He also calls it, quote, the problem of the 3 and 4, the 7 and the 8. So it kind of repeats itself, which, by the way, that ties in with my side trail for after my next episode. I'm going to see why Gilligan 7th the 8th turns the 8th back into 1 on Gilligan's Island. We're going to talk about that and why he's the devil and a lot of other cool things that are not my theory.
Does it involve the cave spider?
No, we are done. We've covered the cave spider on this.
Oh yeah, that was back in episode 2.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to.
Episode 2. You did get past episode 2, so.
I didn't mean to bring up old news.
But Jung also says this eighthing of the 7th to return to the 1 is, quote, the 8th is somewhat more powerful than the 1st. So that does tend to be like that not crime boss, it's like the big boss at the end of each level and getting more.
Yeah, it's like a video game. This is so simulation theory, man. It's our code. Our code is like how we write computer code with binary, but it has 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of just 0 and 1. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
That's what I start thinking in all this.
Yeah. And I think the 1, 2, 3, 4 does cover it all back to wholeness, but if there's little circles within that keep getting more advanced, it becomes more that conscious. Is it more related to the chakras at the different levels? Is it more related to levels of consciousness? Is there levels within levels? It gets complicated.
I have a crazy Ahu Guano theory I'm going to do for us.
Let's do it. What do you want to do?
All feeds into that.
You want to do all?
No, I want you to guys. I want everybody to converse first. We'll do it at the end like we're supposed to.
All right. Any more thoughts? And again, we said this from the onset. This is not going to be Bones' brand of numerology. He has his own brand, and we're going to get to that now. If you have any comments on what you thought about with our owl sightings, and again, even though you have all these stories yourself, he somehow remains some type of a scully muggle, even though, blah, 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 and then he doesn't believe it.
Dude talked to an orb flying around the base of Superstition Mountain, and he doesn't believe in that stuff.
I didn't talk to it.
Well, you just saw it.
Pretty sure you talked to it.
But you have a lot of stories, but you're still almost in your own way a non-believer, which is interesting. And you also, you have your piece of numerology, and this doesn't necessarily fit into that piece of numerology. So
I'm probably more of a believer in numerology than any of you guys.
Okay.
For sure. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. I think that we should talk about how many numbers are there.
9.
Thank you.
Okay.
How many fingers do we have?
9.
10.
Well, we discussed.
Well, I
Moz
said
only
I
has
lost
9.
one.
Moz only
It
has
was
9.
a trick question,
Okay.
I thought.
The reason that we only have 9 numbers is because we have to put the 0 behind the 9. Now, if you want to think of a crazy concept that's almost impossible for humans to wrap their head around, here goes. What if we had 12 fingers? Would we have, instead of 10 being a 0 or 1 and 0, we might have a 10th number that would be Ugabog, and then an 11th that would be Apla. And then 12, what we call 12, would be a 1 and a 0. And all our math would be different. And we would think that it's normal to have 12, the 12th number to have the 0. Our 12 would be 10.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, we need to think about that, how arbitrary this is. But the reason that there's 9 numbers is because that's the way humans are made. And that's why we have a digital math system, because we have digital fingers. 10. The idea that we would focus on numerology and disregard the majority of the numbers that we have seems like looking at the sky from the bottom of a well to me. Like, why are we, focused on 1, 2, 3, 4? Do we only have 4 fingers?
Mary Louise von Franz explains that. It took her 4 years to make it to 4. She thinks it does. And Jung, again, we just talked about how complexity, the 8th of the 7th, repeats. But Mary, she couldn't go on any further. Like, it was just, she focused on that. And again, because 1, 2, 3, 4, when you talk about the outward journey of individuation and the inward journey of enlightenment, it's covered in 1, 2, 3, 4. The Holy Trinity, and then the foring of the 3, the last dualism, which may not happen outside of conscience, may not happen outside of life, may not be something we can do even here potentially. It's something, the final dualism. But they're doing it as those metaphors, and I know it's very different from your numerology.
I have a simpler theory that might apply to that. Dimensionality. We're in a 4-dimensional space-time.
Yeah, and I wanted to get to that. We have a physics section. We're probably not going to get to it tonight for time, but maybe we'll do it as a side trail. The dimensionality piece is what Plato was hung up on. A lot of them were actually talking about space-time, and you're right.
That's what I'm hung up on, too. That's where my whole theory goes.
Right. So it does tie into physics a lot, and we can do that piece if we have time.
That's my Ahu Guano. We're going to do it.
It just seems to me like all these people are making a big deal about making a puzzle when they only have 4/9 of the pieces. We have 9 numbers. Why are we focused on 4 and 4 is the end? That just makes no sense. It just seems like they're trying to reach enlightenment. How many people reach enlightenment anyways? Most people aren't going to do it, and they're trying to do it with not all the numbers. What sort of weird, sort of faux Christian, Holy Ghost Father crap are we dealing with here when we need to expand our humanness to incorporate all 9 numbers? And in fact, in my system, 4 is the worst number.
Yeah, it's the devil, he says.
No, it is not.
Okay.
The devil is 2. That was fairly in concord with what you were saying. Now,
I thought you said condors.
That's later. I'm pretty much on board with what you were saying about 1 being,
undifferentiated.
Or just being more like the godhood. But one also is royalty. It's leadership. It's Jupiter. It's the person in charge. So 1 is the beginning, but also the ruler, the boss. If you want to be a good politician or a good father or a good CEO, 1 would be a strong number for you because you need to be in charge. You need to control the situation. It all rests on your shoulders. That's 1. 2, I also I'm on board with most of what you said about 2. 2 is the adversary. 1 is the beginning. 2 is the problem. Now,
the plot complication.
Now, before we get into this,
the primary dualism.
Let's back up a little bit before I get too far, because that's the only thing I agreed with you about. So let's break down. Why do we have 7 days in our week?
Ooh.
When we have 10 fingers.
Planets. Well, it was the first 7 planets that they...
Right, although 2 of them weren't planets.
The sun and the moon, yeah.
Right. That is the reason. In theory, we should have a 10-day work week because we have 10 fingers.
Don't say that out loud.
Right?
Listen.
Well, we do.
You want to know why? You want to know why there's mental illness and problems for the last 500 years and all this violence and wars? Because the human mind is designed for a 10-day work week. Oh, and we've had 7. So why obviously that's why people are crazy. We all know that. All right, moving on.
Wow.
I
thought I was doing the Ahuguano today.
Just Captain Obvious stuff. Just Captain. If you're depressed, anybody listening to this podcast is depressed, 7-day work week.
So we should have everything should be multiple of 10 in your mind. Well, is what you're saying.
But I'm only going to go into 9 numbers because 10 is not Now I think someone like Jung or these people, they just see numbers as like, oh, there's millions of numbers. Oh, there's so much overwhelming. We can't possibly tackle all of them. You only have to do 9. You don't have, if I don't want to go past 4 because it gets complicated. Yeah, we don't have to worry about 9,747,000. We have 9 numbers. Let's just focus on those. Now, I know that we're supposed to have, a 10-day week. We all agree on that. Everybody does. But we're not going to worry about that because we're stuck in this scully muggle 7-day week crap. So anyways, we're going to try to organize around this hardship of the 7-day week with our numerology to try to keep us sane. See, I'm helping.
Okay.
Now, 4 is a garbage number. So right away, just throw 4 into the trash. We're not even going to go there. So now we're down to 8.
It's the biggest one in a way.
No, 4 is the scully muggle of numbers.
Why?
Okay. 4 is the boring number. 4 is the number of the slave. 4 is the number of work. 4 is the number of you having to wake up at 6:30 in the morning to take your kids to school and take your shower before you go to a job you hate. That's what 4 is. 4 is ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Not good. It is the number of the muggle. You guys don't like the Scully muggles? That's the number of the sheep, the unthinker, the person that the rich people use to make their products. You don't want to be a 4. Trust me. Okay. Why do you think 13 is a bad luck number? Because 1 and 3 is 4. All this 3 becomes 1. That's bad luck. Don't go there. That 13 is 4 compounded into the worst number for most people is 13, because 4 sucks. Now, and so we're throwing 4 out the window. So now we're down to 8 numbers, right?
I appreciate you expounding on that. Now I get it.
All right. We can get back. I can talk more about 4.
That's fine.
I can talk more trash on 4 if you want.
That was perfect.
Okay, so now we have 7-day work week. We have 8 numbers. Slight problem. However, we can fix this problem. And all of you who are maybe listening to this right after New Year's Eve, this is a perfect time to talk about it. Do you ever stay up past midnight? Let's say today's Wednesday. If I stay up till 12:30 tonight, am I going to feel like Thursday's rocking? No, I'm going to still feel like it's Wednesday, aren't I? Most of the time, you still like, this is Wednesday.
Right. Doesn't change days until you sleep.
Right. Now, no matter how late, maybe I stay up till 2:30. It's still Wednesday in my brain, right? So that's a magic time, because it's really, let's just say it's Thursday night or Thursday morning. I stay up till 2:30 tonight. But it's not Wednesday. It's Thursday. But my brain thinks it's Wednesday. That's a magic time. That's the Bacchanal. That's Dionysus's time. So that's 9. Obviously, we'll talk about Dionysus being 9. But 9 is the most magic of all numbers. When you multiply anything by 9 and you add the sum, what number do you get? I'm going to multiply 5 times 9. 45.
The digits add up to 9.
Take your hands. If you're listening to this podcast, and you can do it, put your hands on the table. We're going to multiply 9 times 5. I'm starting on my left. I'm going to put my thumb down. What do I have? I have 4 on one hand. I have 5 on the other. We're going to multiply 9 times 7. I'm going to pull back my 7th finger. I got 6 on one side, and I got 3 in the other. 9 is the most magic number. Okay, it does things that no other number can do. It's the bonus number. It's the Bacchanal. It's the magic time between midnight and the morning when you are not in any particular day. It's the mystery day. Now that's where 9 goes. So now we've taken care of. We got rid of 4. 9's the magic number. All the other, now we have 7 numbers, 7 days in a work week. We're great. We're golden. I can keep you from going crazy. So, also, let's throw out the idea that Sunday is the first day of the week. It's stupid. Just throw that away. If you ever thought that, disregard it now. Your life will be better. The week starts on Monday, unless there's a Bacchanal, but I'm just kidding. All right, so week starts on Monday. We have 7 numbers, 7 days of the week. Monday starts with 8. 8 is the number of the earth. 8 is the number of animals, creation. It is the chaos sign, the directional. I can go 8 different directions. It's chaos. But it's not chaos sort of like of the trickster as much as chaos of existence. Like there's nothing making the rules other than random chance. And this is not my random chance that I'm making as a trickster. This is the random chance of I'm walking down here and there's an owl on the tree, or there was a flash flood and I can't get home when I'm out in the desert. That's the randomness of nature. We can't get, no matter how rich or powerful we are, we still have to put on our hats when it's raining. Okay, that's the chaos of nature. The entwined serpents of Yig. That's Monday. Monday's number is 8. its god is Yig, the All-Father Serpent, and its color is green. That's nature, Monday. Tuesday, now people are going to disagree with me. If there's numerologists listen to this podcast, this is where I'm going to go out on a limb that's going to tick people off maybe. Tuesday is Mars. It is the hero day. Hero is yellow, Apollo, the Archangel Michael. This is the day of hearth and home, family, being a good person. This is the day of kindness, because Tuesday kind of sucks. It's like the worst day of the week. You got to be nice to people. Kindness, it is keeping your family in one piece. It's developing relationships. It's putting yourself second. Tuesday is what makes the world go round. You're sharing, you're caring, you're trying to be a good person. 6. It's also the number of protection, defense. I'm defending my home. I'm defending what I care about. I'm defending my people. In the Jewish Kabbalah, the Star of David, it protects people. And that has how many points? 6. It's a number of protection, home and hearth. Tuesday, yellow, Apollo. Good. Wednesday is the Homeric day. It's the Hermes. It's everything. It's sort of like the potpourri day. Hermes represents magic, medicine, travel, commerce, money, speech. Hermes is sort of like the bucket that carries everything else that is forgotten by all the other people. So that day is the day of magic. Magic's number, everybody? 7. Thank you. So that's the number of Hermes. That's the number of Wednesday is 7. It's a good day for magic. It's a good day for healing.
Good day for the Adams family.
Right. Oh, well, that'd be more Saturday. So that's Wednesday. Wednesday's color is gray. Gray is I'm halfway through the bell curve. I'm half black, I'm half white. It's the mist. I can't see what's happening. And that's the mist of the soul. I'm not going to go too into the Jungian unconscious thing, but that is the mist of the unconsciousness, like trying to find my own spirituality. It's also the day of abstinism. Like if you wanted to quit doing some bad habit, Wednesdays and Thursdays are good days for that. Next, we're going to go back to 1 for Thursday. 1 is the number of royalty. Royal color is purple. So 1 is also a day of magic. It's the day of the crossroads. It's associated with Hecate and power. And again, the crossroads, I like the idea of you could be picking anything. Like I'm going to pick dating that girl instead of that girl. But it also could be more of a mystical thing, like the consciousness, the unconsciousness. Am I going to take the muggle road, or am I going to take the higher road? Am I going to take the easy road? I'm going to take the harder road. It's a day of decisions. It's a day of leadership. You're in charge on Thursday. You need to figure out what's going on, or at least figure out what you're doing this weekend. So next we have the 3. Now we're gonna circle back. Now some of the stuff that was said about the 3 by the scholars that were listed earlier, I am in agreement with. Other things, not so much. 3 is the number of sexuality. 3 is the number of the woman. Look at human genitalia. Women have a vajayjay and 2 breasts. That's 3. Men have, the innkeeper and his luggage. That we got 3, and that's procreation. That's romance. It's also associated with females, which may be kind of sexist, but I think we'll survive. 3 is the number of, man, woman makes a baby. 3, it's the number of creativity. It's a good day to create new projects, new things. It's a good day to go out on a date with your significant other, or maybe hang out with your children that you made. It's the number of productivity and creativity, and its number is 3, and its color is blue. And the goddess I usually associate that is the first real recorded goddess of humanity, Inanna. So we're almost done here, folks. Hold on. Now, We talked a little bit about Tuesday, the adversary. Now, traditionally, I know I said that the week started on Monday here, but let it go. Saturday was originally the day of death. It's the last day of the week that is considered the week's death. So 2 is associated with the adversary. It's associated with darkness. It's associated with death. It's associated with owls. It's the day to get naughty. It's a day to break a few rules. It's a day to say, like, hey, we're not on this planet forever. Let's cause some trouble. It's also a day if you want to do something evil or naughty. Saturday's a good day to do it. So it's the day of darkness. It's the day of night, kind of evil. Numbers 2, color is black. I associate it with Tezcatlipoca. If you're not familiar with Tezcatlipoca, again, he is similar to Hermes in a way. He is the smoking mirror. What is a smoking mirror?
Reflecting back.
That's a normal mirror. The smoking mirror, you don't get to see what you look like. You don't get any easy answers. You try to see, like, who am I? What am I doing? You're going to have to figure that out for yourself because they're smoke in front of the mirror. So Tezcatlipoca, again, it's important for us to embrace our dark side. It's important to have that sort of nihilistic behavior. Like, well, I know that the doctor says I'm not supposed to have these danishes. Like, no, you eat them. So that's Saturday. Okay, we only got one more day. Okay, we talk, or, well, mostly them, talk all about tricksters on this show. Trickster is Sunday. Sunday's number is 5. Sunday, if it is the day of the human. If you look at a pentagram, that's a human standing up. 2 legs, 2 arms, a head. That's the number of humanity. That's Prometheus bringing us the fire. That's Loki teaching humanity new tricks. It's the day when you really think about, we talked about Odysseus. Why is Odysseus important? Odysseus was the first person to think themselves. And he represents what we do with the fire that we're given. Before Odysseus, humans were kind of all scully muggles, all 4s. Odysseus broke the rules and made his own rules. That would put him different. He's a trickster, and that's what Sunday is. It's the day of 5, day of Loki, and its color is red.
And he's a shapeshifter, too, because he shows back up and no one recognizes him except his dog. So it comes back to shapeshifter, all the same themes we've been talking about, pretty much.
So that's the week in review.
Very well done, sir. 2 quick questions that I have. You talked about, basically, what do you think about the lunar calendar, the whole Argelius thing with changing it to a 28-day, the Mayan piece? Because you always talk about, like, if we change these things, it changes how we think, and that's kind of what Argelius is, the 2012 stuff. They were talking about if we adopted the lunar calendar and balanced the male and female energy, because right now it's been more the male energy, this would be an opportunity to be more lunar cycle related, and that would actually trigger the new level of consciousness spring. And I don't know if you have an opinion on that.
I probably do. I mean, obviously...
you should ask yourself.
I will. Obviously, the 28-day cycle is something that's apparent in nature. We have the lunar cycle. Most women are on a 28-day cycle. They're more in tune to that than men. We have a 28-day cycle, but we're doing stupid stuff we don't notice.
It's Saturday.
Yeah, unless it's Saturday. So I agree that would probably help our general mental health. However, I don't think that affects us as much. I mean, do you really, sometimes maybe, but do you really have like a difference in your goals when the month changes?
But that's what you're saying with the 10 would be why we're all sick, because we do the 7 instead of the 10. He's saying let's go with the 28, and that's actually the calendar that would trigger. It was kind of how you started the whole argument.
I think
the 28 would make 7 make sense, though, right?
right.
No, but it's different. Like the 28, he is changing it. It's not exact. So it would be, the calendar would change several days based on the 28-day calendar. And that's what Argelius argues would be, that would bring a balance to us and trigger this new level of consciousness.
Again, I have to state that I think it would be minor compared to changing the days of the week. Days of the week hammer us in the head all week long. Like, oh, it's Wednesday. I got to, it's Saturday. I have to do something fun or I'm a loser. These are things that are apparent, just poking us right in the forehead every day. Like, well, I have to do this today because it's a Tuesday. You're not doing the same thing on Tuesday as you are on Sunday, most people. Whereas, I don't wake up and be like, oh, God, gosh darn it, it's January 1st. Well, actually, maybe people do New Year's resolution, but say that, if it's March 31st and I wake up and it's April 2nd and I slept the whole day, then I'm not going to necessarily change my behavior because it's April. Whereas the change in the weekdays is really going to change everyone's life immensely.
All right.
And when you think about it, you might be like, well, if we change the weeks, would that affect the calendar? It really wouldn't. Not the 365 days, because it doesn't really matter. Like this week, we have the first start on a Wednesday. Next year will be different. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is, and it really doesn't matter what day of the month. It doesn't really affect the overall calendar. The week is sort of something outside of the year. Like, it's not going to change the lunar calendar. It's not going to change the yearly calendar. It's just going to change our work week or our school week and how humans interact with time that we already have.
Gotcha.
Now, keep in mind that that if, maybe some people listening to this believe in gods or a god, and that's probably helping your mental health. But if you do not believe in gods, then the closest thing we have to deities is human archetypes. And those are things, look into Jung, where we have certain things like the wise wizard, the venturing lad, the beautiful woman, the wise woman. These are all human archetypes. It's probably the closest thing that we really have to godhood. So following these archetypes on different days of the week can help you organize your life and help you give tribute to these archetypes, which again are little mini gods that you can invite into your life to infuse you with energy that will help you stay mentally healthy and get your action done. You can do different things on different days of the week, and then you're going to have a well-rounded personality. You're not going to be that 4 that I kicked out earlier.
And that's the only other point I'd make on that. The 4, according to this side of it, again, the 4 is returning to the 1. The quadrant entity, if you talk about the medicine wheel, you talk about the 4 directions, you talk about even Ken Wilber has truth, the good, and the beautiful, and 4 is that 3 in his 4 quadrants. That does come up a lot as part of geometrically the whole, and and again, this is a very different take from yours, but I just want to say that from that perspective, that's the completeness they're talking about, circling back from individuation to enlightenment. It is a very different slant than what you're saying. That was a well-done essay from another numerological slant to it. What I want to do is get to your ahuguano, but first I want to read one thing, because the one piece of the physics one before, since yours is related to physics. So what's cool about this, and this is the piece I want to bring up on the physics end of it, is that Jung worked with Wolfgang Pauli. He worked with a physicist like almost a century ago. We think we're so cool now doing it, but he tried to do it then. And he used this 4-fold schema, working this quantum entity. He worked with Pauli to create these as the 4, the same matches the 4, but from more of a physics slant. 1, the indestructible energy. 2, constant connection through effect, causality. 3, in constant connection through contingent or equivalence or meaning, synchronicity, and 4, space-time continuum. So that goes back.
Space-time continuum. That's where I'm going.
Can I just address this really quickly? I think that those nice things that you said don't dispel my dislike of 4. I mean, earth, air, fire, and water, all that stuff. What that is, I mean, think about a brick. It's a building block. It's wonderful. It's useful. I have bricks in my house. It's great, but it's not super exciting. I mean, the 4 is, yay, I'm alive. But I'm not going to sit on my chair all day just thinking about, I'm alive. I'm made of atoms. You know, it's sort of like the given. It's the building block of existence, and it's wonderful, but it doesn't help me, you know, do the dishes or write a book or figure out a way where I'm going on my vacation.
But that's where definitely these diverge, because you're talking about 4 as the drudgery. They're talking about 4 as the final adversary that you have to overcome to enlightenment.
Yeah,
so
you got to overcome the drudgery to get to enlightenment. Yeah.
Which is the biggest thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there is an agreement on that end, but yours, you know, maybe what your numerology does is it takes it again to that more complexity end, natural end of the numbers, you know, 9,
Yeah.
and then it's just saying the same things, and maybe this is a shortcut that they're doing, but the 4ing of the 3, you know, why the 3rd must become the 4 to become the 1 does seem to be this little waltz of what happens with as we're thrust from unity consciousness here, how it divides into the adversary, how we reintegrate, and then how we return back to the original Godhead. It does seem to be a very eloquent way to look at that. Your numerological piece goes to the end, and it's 9. It brings in, let's face it, yours is a little bit more pagan-y, and mine is a little bit more rock and roll, you know, like whatever.
I would say yours is more Christianity.
Well, I mean, the Trinity is where it ends for Christianity, and the 4ing of the 3 is really back to what Jung was talking about with the I Ching, what Jung was kind of matching with, you know, the Tao seems to say.
Yeah, it ties in a lot of that stuff because you had the Buddhist enlightenment kind of element, and the begins at the Tao. And
meditators have these dualisms that they come across. This numerologically kind of spells that out. But Jung, the other piece of it is he seems to think that numbers are dispersed throughout the Godhead, that there's actually that paint by numbers thing going on, that you can actually, and I don't think you may agree with that piece of it, that it's actually fairly numerological, and that picking a number out of the hat actually has some collapsing the wave. It can connect, make a bridge between psyche and matter. It can be meaningful. It does bring the tarot and some of these other games of chance back into a more meaningful side of things that I never thought was there.
I would say that it's a very linear path. Like this is idea like, in order to reach enlightenment, we must go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Where my path is more dynamic, where it's like we got all sorts of stuff going on. We're going to take all these different techniques and figure out a puzzle on our own, and each person's an individual, and they'll make their own path.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the different philosophies you guys have been building there.
Yep.
I got one that I'm going to try to tie this all together with.
There we go.
Do it.
Bring it on home.
I don't even know if I should call it an actual ahul guano, because I think it's just like...
We have two kinds of ahul guano.
Yeah.
One that is just silly, and the other one that kind of makes sense.
I'm going to try to make this the culminating theory of this entire episode, but I'm going to call it an ahul guano because I want to play the bumper.
There you go.
Oh no, here it comes. Quick, to the batshit signal. Okay, so this is what we were talking about. This is going to get into the transdimensionalism, space-time, more of like the physics aspect of this, although I am a philosopher more than a physicist, so Neil deGrasse might hate me for this one, but I'm going to do it anyway, and just remember it's an ahul guano. Okay, so in order for me to formulate this whole theory of the oneing of the four, because that's what MOZ and I have been working on through this whole trajectory of this arc of episodes. So for me to formulate this theory of the oneing of the four of the dimensional planes within our space-time, which I mentioned before, we're in a four-dimensional space-time, right? I'm going to have to get into the nature of time itself. So we talked about this a little bit before, the concept of the time loaf in episode 66. This is the concept that time exists as a physical dimension and that the entire expanse of time actually exists as a whole, and that every moment in time exists equally with every other moment all at once. Okay? Episode 66, if you want the whole conversation on that. So our space-time is a four-dimensional plane on which we perceive the dimensions of height, length, and width, while we perceive the dimension of time as a linear progression through the expanse of actual time that exists all at once.
And that's the 2, by the way.
There you go. But we can only process it in a single direction as one moment at a time. So actually, I have this as meaning that we are actually on the 3 or third dimension of our space-time plane, because we can perceive the 3 dimensions, but we cannot fully perceive the 4th, which puts us on the 3 in my theorizing here. So now to the point of 4ing of the 3 to becoming a 1. If we were to elevate our perceptions to fully perceive the dimension of time, which would mean we could see the entire expanse of time all at once and move freely within it. This would elevate us from the 3 dimensions to the 4 dimensions, from the 3 to the 4. And when you are able to perceive the entire expanse of time, our space-time plane is no longer fractured in our perceptions into separate moments and separate places, but becomes wholly perceivable all at once.
Right.
It becomes one thing. When you achieve the 4 on our plane, you now perceive that the plane is one thing. All things on the plane are connected in a real way. The question is, what plane are you on when you get back around to this 1? You just turn the 4 into 1 because you can see all the 4 dimensions as one thing all at once now.
So what dimension is that?
Right. In my mind, from this philosophical theorizing standpoint, when you are able to see the whole of our 4-dimensional plane as a single entity of existence, it seems we would then be outside this plane. This is the whole membrane theory thing. Yeah, as we would essentially be looking down on it from on high, like some kind of weird godhead, like Bone was talking about. You become this kind of godlike figure at a certain point. So does this mean that we now exist on another plane entirely? And would this plane then be a 5-dimensional plane?
Yes.
In which we are able to perceive 4 of the 5 dimensions? And if so, does that mean that in one of the infinite moments of that 5-dimensional plane, is there a version of us sitting around talking about the 5ing of the 4 in order to become the 1? Or is it just a new 4? And
I think it starts again is what they were saying again.
There you go. And if it restarts again,
it's the 8ing of the 7th.
now you take, okay, so here we go. This is, right, it 4s again. So now to take this Ahu guano to its deepest depths, theories on physics predict that we actually live in an 11-dimensional multiverse. If you get into the whole string theory, membrane theory thing, they say we actually exist within an 11-dimension paradigm, right?
And the drummer always dies, yeah.
So when you 11 the 10 to become a 1, so if you have these sets of 4, when you 11 the 10, that's the last 3. So when you get to the 12 as the last 4, you then move out of this 11-dimension paradigm entirely. And is that when you really become God?
Well, that's
because this is like what Bone was saying with the 10. The 10 of human existence is the 10 dimensions we experience on the way to this 11th, which is the last level of this plane that we actually exist in. And when you 4 that last 3, you are now on the 12, which is the new 1 of the next 11-dimensional plane.
And we talked about that. That was the Taoist piece where the 10th year, the 11th year gets a unit, becomes a unit. Their 11th thing, the whole thing. So that's in a way maybe becomes the 12th.
Right.
Or they were saying that the 11th becomes the 10, becomes the 11th, becomes that one whole loaf of bread at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know about the 12th. I think they were saying 11th, but I don't know if it goes.
Well,
that
I
next
mean,
step.
I'm just trying.
But
to,
it does tie in a little bit, because that is what the calendar is basically saying, of that Taoist calendar. Is
Right.
That 11th year is now a unit
That's
of the 10 years.
That's your final 3, which is actually the last level on this plane of existence. When you hit that 12, you go to the next, because there's only 11 dimensions. You're in the
Does a
last
string
dimension
theory
of our
tie in
existence.
potentially to Taoism that way? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I know Buddhism and quantum theory overlap a lot.
No, I get it.
So, but yeah, that's a good question. Does Taoism tie into the whole
I'll have to look back
hyperdimensional
at
thing?
that, where I found that. So
That's what I got from
Nice.
you guys talking
I like
in
it,
my
man.
own philosophy.
yeah, he just does that stuff for
I like
whatever
it.
reason.
But I don't want to know what you count as your 11th finger.
Is this back to the?
No, that's when you
What did
move
you say with the
beyond-
luggage? What was that?
The 11th dimension is when you go post-biological. That's when we become the jinn. We become the plasma beings that can move throughout all the dimensions on this entire plane.
I like
all at
it.
once.
There you go.
We become the jinn. We become the plasma.
All right. That's when you grow your 11th finger.
Yeah. Well, that's when you no longer even have fingers.
Yeah. You don't need an 11th
You don't
finger.
need fingers anymore.
You grow it just for a second to push that button that you can only push with your 11th finger, and then you go up the elevator.
Which is an L. It's not a 1. Yeah.
Wow. And that's how you finish an ahu guano. right there.
right there. That would do it.
All right. Well, this is we're actually counting this as an interview episode since Bone's here, and we did kind of a different thing. So I don't know. Are we doing the other?
No, I don't think
segments?
we
Yeah.
have a lot of the segments. I think we probably are over time anyway, as usual.
Yeah, because we don't do those on our interviews. Yeah, we're 2 hours recorded already. So
we appreciate your time. We appreciate your opinions, Mr. Bone, as usual. And we need to get you back on, because it's fun to pick your brain a little bit.
All right. Well, I'm available.
yeah, he's definitely got a few more episodes on the list
On
already.
Saturdays.
Yeah, I'm available. I got I'll make a list.
He'll check it twice.
He's only available on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. So those are the power days, right?
Ooh.
Every day's a power day.
When you're
When
Bone.
you're Alex Bone.
And don't forget about Bacchanal.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that free time, man. That's why I like staying up till 4 a.m.
Yeah.
You get those 4 hours of free time.
It's good. And no one bugs you.
Yeah. World's quiet. You can get stuff done.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's get out of here. Before you guys jump off, let's hit those happy little fun buttons on whatever platform you're on, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/monsterlore tour. You can join for just $1 a month, get early access to all upcoming episodes, and their adjacent side trails come out right along with them, so you don't have to wait for the compilations. That's it for me. Let's get out of here. Thanks, Bone, again. Thank you, Moz. Thank you all for listening.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. A little late on the public side. But to all our fellow paranerdalists out there, until the next one, have a good one. Monster Lore Tour Podcast.
I'm going to take a little sip
I
of
think the quails like me too.
that. Dan Quell.
No, I know how to spell potato.
This has been a Shut Up production.